If you're struggling to understand the impact of privacy on your organization, I want to use the recent story about Twitter and their privacy incident in order to illustrate how important privacy practices are for all of us. Earlier this year in 2022, the Department of Justice and Federal Trade Commission fined Twitter $150 million. Did they violate a law or a regulation? No, they didn't. But they had deceived consumers into providing their phone number and email address for two-factor authentication purposes, but then later using that information to do targeted advertising. So this was just a business practice. This is something that we might consider to be fairly innocuous. They used email addresses to run a marketing campaign. But the problem was they had told the consumer when they collected the information that they were only going to use it for the purpose of providing two-factor authentication for their Twitter account. The Department of Justice said, would as many consumers have signed up and provided their information if it had been disclosed that they were going to use it for marketing purposes? And this is one of the tenets of privacy, is providing notice to people, making sure that the individual understands how their information is going to be used. But in this case, it was really just a violation of policy. It was someone making a decision that did not consider the privacy implications, and it cost the organization $150 million. The Federal Trade Commission also gave them an order to conduct a privacy assessment and have a third party conduct that assessment to ensure that they are following what is generally accepted best practices for privacy in their organization, and that's something that they're going to have to do. It's been mandated to them to do that on an ongoing basis. So I'd like to ask you to consider to go ahead and do that for yourself. Go ahead and have a privacy assessment performed. Understand what practices you have in place and understand if there are any adjustments or changes you need to make in order to comply with these principles that are out there for privacy to ensure that you don't have these conflicting results and messages that are happening that could lead to a fine. You can do that assessment today without getting into a situation where it's mandated and where you're fined an amount that is really unnecessary if you just take the time to look at your own privacy practices and how you're doing today.